Welcome to the Utility Security Podcast, your command center for all things utility security. From power plant warriors to grid guardians, and even curious citizens, this podcast is your essential briefing on keeping up to date with knowledge and insights for securing our nation's utilities. Expert intel through interviews with security chiefs, tech wizards, and policy shapers. Tune in as we explore the latest vulnerabilities, industry best practices, and inspiring stories of resilience from the frontline heroes keeping our grids secure.
Okay, so when you think about utility companies, right, you usually picture things like, I don't know, fixing power lines, maybe dealing with storm damage.
Yeah, or maybe the occasional squirrel causing an outage, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But the security threats they're actually facing today, it's honestly pretty surprising. It's moving into territory that sounds more like a spy movie than your local electric company.
That's absolutely right. The challenges have really shifted. I mean, it used to be focused largely on, preventing theft, but it's evolved way beyond that now into something much more complex, dealing with real threats to the infrastructure itself.
And that's precisely what we want to dig into today. We're looking at this really interesting article from Utility Security Update. It's called Theft, Ballistic Threats and Explosives. Oh my, utility security.
Quite the title.
Isn't it? And it features insights from Dominic Dillon over at 3B Protection, and also comments from Brent Warzoka from Convergent.
Two key players in the space.
For sure. So our goal here is to kind of cut through the jargon and really understand what are these evolving threats utilities are facing, and maybe more importantly, what are the innovative ways they're starting to fight back?
Yeah, we want to give you a clear picture of the vulnerabilities, but also the forward-thinking solutions being developed to keep these essential services safe.
Okay, let's dive in then. The article kicks off by highlighting this pretty significant shift in what keeps utility security folks up at night. Dominic Dillon points out that their initial work was heavily focused on anti-theft.
Right, stopping people from stealing stuff like copper wiring, which was and still is a problem.
But the worries now are fundamentally different and, frankly, quite a bit more alarming.
Yeah, what's really striking is that pivot. We're not just talking about, petty theft anymore. The concern has moved towards deliberate, possibly even coordinated attacks aimed at crippling critical infrastructure.
Which raises huge questions about who's doing this and why, right?
Exactly. The article hints at that, but it definitely leaves you thinking.
And it escalates quickly from just theft concerns. Dillon flags the growing risk of ballistic threats, actual shootings targeting substations.
Which is a terrifying thought. It's not just about protecting assets anymore. It's about preventing intentional disruption of vital services.
And he doesn't stop there. He also mentions the emergence of forced entry threats and even, incredibly, the potential use of explosives against utility walls.
Wow. Explosives.
Yeah, he says the threat landscape is totally changing week by week. That phrase really stuck with me. It highlights just how fast these dangers are evolving.
That kind of speed really demands security solutions that can keep pace. It's obvious that, a simple chain link fence just isn't going to cut it anymore.
Not even close. Needs much more robust thinking.
Which actually brings us to another type of threat, one you might not immediately think of. Electromagnetic pulses, EMPs, and also high electromagnetic fields, or HEMPs.
Okay, EMPs and HEMPs. What's the concern there exactly?
Well, there's growing worry about these, especially with drones becoming more common. The idea is that drones could potentially be used to sort of listen through walls electronically.
Listen through walls. How does that work?
So an EMP is basically a huge, sudden burst of electromagnetic energy. Think of it like a massive power surge that can fry electronics. A HEMP is a high electromagnetic field that could potentially be used to intercept signals. The worry is someone could use a drone to generate a field or pulse near a facility to disable controls or even eavesdrop on communications.
Okay, that's definitely concerning. And 3B Protection, they're tackling this.
Seems like it, yeah. They've apparently developed some pretty interesting countermeasures that are built right into their wall materials. Dillon talks about using proprietary blends, some involving copper compounds, to actually block signals within the wall itself.
So it's not just a physical barrier, it's an electronic one too.
Exactly. It's a proactive, layered approach. They're baking the security right into the building blocks, not just adding it on later.
But it's not just the walls, right? Because signals could leak elsewhere.
Good point. Dillon mentions they also use copper sprays on doors to block signals there. And this detail really stood out. Every single pipe, every wire going in or out of the building needs a special protective cover.
Every single one.
Yeah. To stop any potential signal leaks, it's about creating a completely sealed electromagnetic shield, basically.
That level of detail is incredible. It really shows you it's not just about keeping people out physically anymore.
No, it's also about controlling that whole electromagnetic environment, preventing spying, preventing interference. It's a whole different game.
Okay, let's pivot slightly to another really critical area. Fire prevention. The article brings up the terrible wildfires in California and more recently the tragedies in Hawaii. In some cases, utility equipment failure has been looked at as a potential stark.
And that just underscores the huge responsibility these companies have. It's not just delivering power, it's actively managing risks that could cause widespread disaster. The fallout from equipment failures can be absolutely devastating.
So how do these advanced walls and security measures tie into fire safety? Well, 3B puts a lot of emphasis on meeting this standard called ASTM E119.
Ah, yes, the fire protection standard.
And the testing for it sounds incredibly intense. They take like a 10 by 10 foot piece of wall, stick it in a frame, and then blast it with an 1800-degree furnace.
And it gets up to that temperature super fast, right? Like 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And the wall has to stay standing, fully intact, for the whole test time could be 1, 2, even 4 hours.
And that's not all. After it's been baked for hours, they hit it with a high-pressure fire hose.
Seriously?
Yep, 50 psi. And there can't be any leaks or failures on the backside, the side that wasn't directly facing the fire. It proves serious fire resistance.
Wow. That could definitely buy critical time in a real fire.
Absolutely. But they're apparently not stopping there. Dillon mentions 3B is pushing to meet an even tougher 6-hour fire test standard.
6 hours?
Yeah, specifically for really critical stuff like around transformers and inside substations. That extra protection could be vital if a fire really takes hold.
That really shows a commitment to staying ahead, especially with, climate change potentially increasing fire risks.
Definitely. And this is where Convergent comes back in. They've partnered with 3B on a smart tech solution for heat detection. Brent Werzoka talks about using existing security cameras for this.
Using security cameras for heat detection. How?
Well, what's clever is leveraging the infrastructure that's already there. Instead of separate systems for security and firewatch, they integrate.
Makes sense.
So these aren't just standard cameras. Werzoka explains they can have cameras that periodically take thermal readings of equipment, like transformers.
Okay, like temperature checks.
Exactly. And if they detect an unusual temperature spike, an abnormality, it automatically sends an alert to the Security Operations Center.
An early warning system.
Precisely. He specifically mentioned incidents like a fire in Pacific Palisades and the Hawaii fires as situations where spotting a heat issue early on could potentially have made a huge difference, maybe preventing a small problem from becoming a catastrophe.
That kind of preventative potential is huge. Okay, so looking ahead now, the article touches on future trends in threats and security. Dominic Dillon stresses that 3B is really focused on staying ahead of the curve. Ballistics, forced entry, whatever comes next.
And he also emphasizes how quickly they try to respond to specific client issues. That adaptability is key when the threats change so fast.
He gives a really concrete example, too. The current standard crash rating, K-12, means a barrier has to stop a 15,000-pound truck going 50 miles per hour.
Right, that's pretty robust already.
But get this, they're already working on solutions to handle the same size truck hitting at 80 miles per hour.
80? Wow, that's a massive jump in force.
Yeah, apparently based on requests they're getting from clients here in the U.S., it shows you the kind of extreme physical attacks they're preparing for.
That's serious foresight. Building infrastructure to withstand that kind of impact.
And then Brent Werzoka from Convergent adds this really interesting observation. He says, despite all the high-tech security stuff, AI, sensors, sophisticated software, what his utility clients are increasingly asking for is, well, something surprisingly basic.
What's that?
A wall. A really strong physical barrier.
Huh. It's almost like Back to the Future, as he calls it. It really says something about how important those fundamental physical defenses still are, even with all the tech.
Totally. He's seeing more and more requests for ballistic protection, not just around the perimeter of a site, but also protecting individual critical assets inside, like putting armor around specific equipment.
That growing demand definitely highlights the very real fear of direct physical assaults on utility gear. It's like a recognition that some threats just need a solid physical stop.
Now, one thing both Dillon and Werzoka mention is the ongoing issue with drones. Everyone agrees they're a growing threat, for attacks, for surveillance.
Yeah, a major concern.
But there's still kind of a lack of clear laws or regulations allowing utilities to, actively take countermeasures against this immediately. Though, obviously, a strong physical barrier helps against some drone threats right now.
Right. The rules around drone tech are still catching up, which makes it tricky for security teams. You need the tech to counter them, but also the legal green light to actually use it effectively.
Okay, one last key point from the article, this smart partnership between Convergent and 3B that's actually aimed at saving utilities money.
Oh, how so?
Well, apparently putting up traditional poles just to mount security cameras or sensors near substations can be incredibly expensive.
I can imagine, especially near high voltage areas, lots of safety protocols, specialized work.
Exactly. We're talking potentially 6 figures just for a pole installation.
Ouch.
So their joint solution is pretty neat. Instead of a separate pole, they designed the 3B security wall so that it includes the mounting points for cameras and other devices.
So the wall does double duty, serves as the barrier and the mounting structure.
Precisely. It offers a much more cost-effective way to get those cameras and sensors positioned right where they need to be, near the high-voltage equipment. The article even says there's a video on the utility security website showing how it works.
That's a great example of collaboration, using the strength of the wall structure to also hold the surveillance gear. Smart, efficient.
So wrapping this all up, we've really seen this dramatic change in the threats utilities face. It's gone way beyond just theft to include serious worries about shootings, bombs, even electronic interference.
Yeah, the complexity has just shot up. And on the flip side, we're seeing some really innovative solutions, these advanced walls that block signals and resist fire for hours, integrated heat detection using existing cameras.
The big picture here seems to be the need for this comprehensive, multi-layered approach. You need the tough physical barriers, but also the smart technology working together.
Absolutely. The threats are constantly morphing, so the security has to adapt just as fast, maybe even faster.
And it is kind of funny, isn't it? In our super high-tech world, the simple idea of a strong wall is still fundamentally crucial for security.
It really is. It underlines that sometimes the best defense is a smart mix of those tried and true physical principles and the latest cutting-edge tech. Tech finds the threat, the wall stops it.
So thinking about everything, we've covered these evolving, sometimes surprising threats in the utility world and the clever solutions being developed. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Wonder what?
Well, what other critical infrastructure sectors out there might be facing similar kinds of security challenges, beyond just power and water? Could transportation or communications or others benefit from these kinds of advancements in physical and integrated security too? Something to think about.
Don't forget to visit our website at utilitysecurity.com for exclusive intel, resources, and a community of fellow utility security professionals. Stay safe, stay informed, and stay tuned for your next mission briefing.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Utility Business Media and its employees. It is strongly recommended that you discuss any actions or policy changes with your company manager